Good evening. I'd like to call the study session of the North Augusta City Council for Monday, April the 11th, 2022 for order. At this time, we'll turn it over to our City Administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As usual for our study session, we've got 3 items for your consideration tonight. The first will be the proposed council agenda. The second will be departmental details from the department heads. And lastly, it'll be a focus area study session on the public safety headquarters design. So what I'd like to do is go directly into the council meeting itself. So on this, you have a number of items at the beginning of the agenda. We've got youth appreciation. We have a proclamation for Month of the Military Child. And then next we have under personnel, both Greg Schaffer and Jason Sykes have completed their LGLI Institute. That's something that Rachel Moody could probably talk to at far greater detail than I could as far as her graduation of that program. But this is a professional development program we've been trying to push a number of our leaders in the organization to go to. And I think this is something that shows that we've got investment in our leadership here in the city and also allows us to professionalize our workforce. So this will be a recognition of those 2 gentlemen graduating that program. And then the next item here under number 8 for boards and commissions, I would defer to the mayor, but I believe he has an appointment that he's looking to make onto the planning commission.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Jesse Elliott to council next Monday. Jesse is co-owner of Shop 3130. A couple things. I think having a business person on planning commission is important. And also in the downtown piece with so many different things happening. But also what I like about Jesse is he's one of these people that I think is a critical thinker. He can see beyond just what he's talking about. He looks at the overall situation, and I think he'll bring a lot of value to the Planning Commission and will be a benefit for citizens. So I'm excited about Jesse. So.
Now, Mayor, did somebody resign or we had an opening?
Yeah, Bob Clark and Larry Watts, both their tenure had ended. So, we appointed a Rhett last time, and there was still one position I had to fill. So, I had to get the right person.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then the next item is resolution number 2022-19, which is a resolution authorizing public safety headquarters design. And what I'd like to do is defer that for the discussion I have in the focus area today for the study session. So barring any questions from council members, that's the agenda that we have prepared for next Monday's council meeting. Barring any questions, we'll go into department details, and our leadoff hitter tonight is Cammie Hayes from the Finance Department.
I like that term, Jim, leadoff hitter.
I just have a few date reminders. On April 18th, we have a Cycle 2 due date for utilities, and on the 19th and 20th, there'll be a Cycle 1 disconnect. Just a final reminder about our business license and city taxes. Our business license due date is April 30th for the 22-23 license year, and we do have a lot of businesses that are using the online portal that was done through the state, so that's been a nice addition for people to be able to pay online. And our city tax deadline is April 1st without penalty for the 21 tax year. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kim.
I believe Rachel Moody's going to cover down on public services tonight.
I am, thank you. I have one update on behalf of James Sutton and Public Services, and this is related to the large sycamore tree in the amphitheater. Sharon has some photos that I want to share with you. This is a progression of the decline of this unfortunate tree. So the first picture from August 2019 was prior to the amphitheater being built. Sorry about Sharon, I was a little slow. And you'll see it was pretty full, lots more limbs were still up there. And as it progresses, there has been a slow but noticeable decline. You can go to the next one. Yeah, there we go. I do have the maintenance report that Roy Kibler provided. And over the past 2.5 years, there have been 19 activities performed on this tree just related to keeping it healthy. almost 60% of the activities are related to trying to improve the soil health, fertilization, and any sort of growth support possible. You may remember last week, our intention was to have this tree pruned. The tree had dropped limbs periodically over the last few weeks. Some of them were quite large in size. We had a contractor scheduled to come out to perform the limbing. When they got on site and they got high enough, and you can see the April 22 picture, you can see them on site there, they were able to see the top part of the tree where the limbing was supposed to occur had been diseased with phytophthora lesions, and there were also cracks in the stems. Because of the decline, there was not a safe way to limb the tree, nor were any of our contractors able to actually get in the tree due to safety measures. So Roy, as you know, is a certified arborist. The company that came out to perform the trimming also was led by a certified arborist, and then we had a third opinion of a second independent arborist to evaluate the tree. And according to the evaluation, we can't just trim the top where the disease and the cracks are, because doing that will not allow for proper photosynthesis, so the tree cannot sustain itself. So unfortunately, this is going to lead to us having to completely remove the tree. This is something that we'd feared and had been monitoring over a couple of years, and despite our best efforts in terms of the fertilization and the injections, we aren't able to save it. So we're currently in the process of accepting bids. I believe we have one in hand. We have two more that we should have received by the end of the day for pricing to remove the tree as quickly as possible. So until the tree is removed, we do still have the fence up around. It was installed last Friday morning. If you've been down to the amphitheater, you'll see it. It's a chain link. It's not all that obtrusive, but it will remain there until the tree comes down.
We've done all we can to treat the disease.
We have. In fact, the arborist that came last week, whose company discovered the real extent once they got up, he said that he doesn't see the tree lasting at least through this season. And I did ask Roy, can we just chop the top off and make a fun chainsaw, figurine of the base? And they said, no, it was deteriorated so bad that it would just crumble. So I tried.
Has Roy said that, can we plant something back in its place?
We can. There are a number of options. There's essentially three options we can take. There's the do nothing option. We just take the tree out and we leave it, done. We can remove the tree and replace it with another tree, and at the very least one other tree. I'd forgotten, or I guess I'd not paid attention. We'd planted two other trees alongside. I don't know that I can really tell in this photo. So there's a couple other junior trees that will eventually grow also. So again, we can continue to make it a shaded area through trees. And I suppose if we really wanted to, a third option is we could do a combo of additional tree and maybe look to see if there's other seeding that can be added, because so much of it was not incorporated, but there are cost considerations for all that. The primary goal is to have the tree removed. It will include grinding the stump. That way we don't have to worry about the limbs. We're able to utilize it to its full potential and gives us time to decide what we want to do, what we want it to look like.
Well, I think that we definitely need to consider, if we replace the tree, that we do it with a significant, large size caliber tree as we possibly can.
I was going to suggest, and it's not, it's towering, but some of the palmettos like what we have right in the intersection out here, a couple of those.
Just so people know that when the construction started, the stadium, and prior to the amphitheater being built, let the record know that people understand that that tree was in question of surviving way back then. So I don't want people to think that we put the amphitheater and now he's killed it, because that's not the case. It was in, what's the word? Distress way back then. So let's just remember that. We did a lot of underground activities up and around that area for the stadium construction. So just don't want anybody to say we killed the tree putting that stuff in there, because that's not what happened.
Among some of the treatments that were performed was air fracturing, which was a way to inject the ground essentially to alleviate soil compaction that occurs in areas where roots are under another non-porous surface, in recognition that there was deterioration, and hopefully to try to keep it healthy for as long as possible.
Well, would that happen again if we replanted a tree, though? I mean, the same problem because of the
That's an
problem there
excellent
that caused this. I mean,
Yeah.
so we might go back to Bob's suggestion, a big Christmas tree.
That's definitely a Roy question for sure. I believe this tree was 80 years old, so I can only imagine the reach of the.
Oh, it's not old.
Yes, Eric, as we get closer, once we have a better idea, we'll have proposals for you all to consider with cost considerations, design, absolutely. Yes, yes. That's all I have for public services.
Thank you, Rachel. Any other questions from the council on public services? If not, we'll have Tommy Paradise give an update from planning and development.
Thanks, Rachel.
Mr. Mayor and Council, there'll be a BZA meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. In the Development Code Rewrite Committee, be getting back together on April the 26th. That will be a virtual meeting. We're getting back together. Mr. Toole and Mr. McGee, y'all should have got a save the date. If you hadn't, please let me know.
That's the advisory group, right?
Yes, sir.
The Mayor Petty
Steering
appointed?
committee.
Yeah, steering, okay, great.
That's for that virtual meeting on the 26th, right?
Tommy, will there be other BZA meetings for, this one is specifically for Paul Knox for their sign? Or is
Yes.
it for all the school signs?
This one has 4 items on the agenda: Paul Knox, Mossy Creek, and another school for their signs. And then there is a Martintown Ridge. There's a variance for that development as well. And that one hadn't been annexed in. That variance is contingent on them coming in. Yes, sir.
Now, I have, and Rachel and I talked about this, so I don't know if this is appropriate time to bring it up, but you know, when we talked about the church, be ye holy, and the digital sign, well, and we sort of tabled that, and I talked with that young man again this weekend. I called him because their sign is down totally. And why they took it down, because he said, we don't want to go build a new sign, then all of a sudden we couldn't maybe have we might end up with digital. But what I question, how did North Augusta Middle get the digital sign? And I'm over there a lot. Now Paul Knox, I live by Paul Knox, and I've seen the signs up for the meeting and all, you know. But this was not at North Augusta Middle, because I want to say it was during the summer last year, all right, before school started, and all of a sudden, and nothing against that, I'm happy for North Augusta Middle. And I talked with the principal, because I said, I don't want you to think I'm starting something about this, but how did y'all get the sign digital? And Be Ye Holy, which is literally one block, we could not, we question that. I mean, not that I would like the sign taken down in North Augusta Middle, because that is, the parents need that.
I think the
Two
code
reasons.
isn't changing. Go ahead.
One is the school is in a public use zoning district, whereas I think the church is in a residential zoning district. And
Well,
they-
actually, the school has more residential than this church.
well,
There's actually one, I mean, that's,
understand.
you know, I hate to say
it's-
that.
It's the zoning district that they're in that was looking at. And then 2, it went to the BZA,
Yeah. For Paul Knox and North Augusta Middle.
North Augusta Middle.
Okay, because I never did see that. All of a sudden, the sign popped up.
Actually, in full disclosure, the sign popped up, and we said, where did the sign come from? And you either got to get a variance or it needs to come down, and they came in and got the variance.
Okay, well, that's fine, and I want it to stay because I love it. But I would like for us as a council to go back and revisit the church Be Ye Holy with their digital sign too, because I mean, if you got one right here in one block, you know you can't do yours. So I think as a
That's got-
council.
I mean, that goes to the planning, yeah,
Well-
that goes to the planning commission.
All right, so would that be us, or would Mr. Newsom be the one to
They need to
apply?
go to the planning commission, that's where.
Yeah, yeah, and
Did
see,
it
we,
come back to y'all?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this was
come back
before
to
you and
us and we
Jennifer were
tabled
on,
it.
and
I
for
didn't
whatever,
remember whether it came back to council.
yeah, and for whatever
Yes.
reason it got tabled.
'Cause we
And it's
we
never
declined
been-
it on the planning commission.
Did
Right,
you
and they
ever
brought it to us.
find out, Rachel? Rachel, I talked to her last week.
No, go ahead, Tommy.
If I remember, because I have looked into this, it came to city council, it got tabled, and it was more or less, we're not gonna say, reading through it, it sounded like, we're not gonna say no, but we're gonna table it.
Table it, right,
and-
right.
And let it go.
So that's my
So-
question. Then is it something we can bring back up, take it off the table?
You can always take it off the table, yeah.
But what exactly was the resolution or motion that was before council? Was it rezoning or was it about the sign?
It was to change the sign regulations.
Oh, okay.
Then does he need to ask to be rezoned then? I mean, I'm
Well,
not, I'm
and-
sorry to bring this up, but I don't want to see him,
In looking at their church, where it's laid out, you've got residential all around it. So anything that we could change it to that would allow the digital sign, and jump in here, Kelly, but I think it would be spot zoning. And I think,
but I mean, is that possible?
Well, if there's no other commercial or public or whatever right around it, and you just go right in the middle of a residential area and take one piece of property and zone it differently, that would be spot zoning.
Well, like I said, I just hate, within one block of this man's church, we got the digital, but we saying no to you.
But we
You
don't
know,
we don't know the status of his situation. He needs to address it. It's his business.
well, he
So,
did,
I
he
mean,
did
it's
address
our job
it,
to do
Mayor.
his business for him.
He
needs to
did
come
address
back.
it, but we tabled it, so subject closed, you know, and so that's what I'm saying. Who needs to get this ball rolling?
and I believe he asked for a variance, and it was denied as well. that-
I'm sorry, Tommy, what?
I believe he asked for a variance, and that was denied as well.
Or did they table it also?
No, we declined it.
I know we didn't decline it, we
I
just
thought
tabled
it
it.
came to y'all.
So it-
Maybe we did.
I thought it went to the BZA.
It went to the BZA, and I think it was denied.
Correct.
Then it went to the planning commission, which,
For the text amendment.
for the text amendment, and they made a recommendation, which was not to approve it, if I remember correctly, Mayor. And it came to city council, where city council
It was tabled.
tabled it.
We had a big discussion about
Yeah,
it.
we had a big discussion.
Because
we
remember,
sure
I brought
did.
up Hammond Hills, Paul Knox, and, you know, all of the
And
others.
here we are,
'Cause I'm not a
Hammond
big
Hills,
fan of,
Paul Knox.
Because
digital
we have
vendors.
Victory Baptist had
Yeah,
almost an
Victory was around the
identical-
same time. Yeah, sure
Yeah.
was.
And if I remember correctly now, there may have also been a reason to table it at council to wait and see what the outcome was at Victory Baptist.
Pat, what we need to do, let's, I think,
I know.
Jim, Ms. Clifford, and Rachel have heard this, so let's put that on for us to look at and what that looks like.
Yes, Mr. Red. I think the big concern really was making a individual decision for one church that was going to have an effect across the entire city, and that was really the reason why it was tabled, because we were not sure of what the overall impact was going to be across the entire city limits. So we can go back and take a look at that again and see if any facts have changed. But I think that was the crux of why the discussion was tabled last time, was because it was unknown what the effect would have been across the city.
And so we got 2 new people on council, let's do that.
Yes, sir.
No.
Okay,
And
well,
you-
just so we're gonna take a look and,
We're good.
When did that come to the BZA for the North Augusta Middle? Do you remember?
It was before Tommy. Oh, the North Augusta Middle
I mean, you said you looked
would
it
have
up,
been
right?
last summer.
yeah,
It was in the midst of the, when Cully was out and I just started.
Okay.
well, the sign was not up at the beginning of the school year. And then all of a sudden, just, boop, I happened to ride over, I said, well, my goodness.
Well,
We got a digital sign.
We're gonna do it. Let's go ahead and move on. Thank you, Tommy. Who's next, Jim?
Mr. Mayor, we have Chief Thomas from Public Safety.
Thank you. I have 3 items to cover with you. It is Dispatch Appreciation Week this week. It's called Telecommunication Week, as I've been corrected. So that's on our Facebook page, and we want to make sure that those 8 ladies get thanked for what they do. They do a lot of behind the scenes, and they take care of our officers, getting them from point A to point B, and they deal with a lot of stress and strain. So I want to make sure that we honor those people appropriately. We have hired a new animal control officer, as you see. Craig McBride started last week. He's on board and answering calls. Saw him again today, so we're glad that that's has started, and Craig will do a great job. Fire Station 1, obviously the inclement weather that we had last week kind of put a damper on things, as it did a lot of other things, and so we received all the block and the insulation, so hopefully we can get that done pretty quickly and start on the inside.
Did Craig come from internally, or can you tell
No,
us a
sir,
little
he
bit
came
about him?
from Aiken County.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Was he previously in this role, or is this something?
He was in a role similar to that and has been in animal control before. Yes, sir.
Great.
The benefit there, Mr. Mayor, is that coming out of Aiken County, will hopefully build some future relationships with county officials and also going forward with, the county facilities as we move forward on this.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Next, I believe Rachel will be covering down on PRT.
I will be sharing the PRT updates. Carl is not able to be here. It's all hands on deck at SRP Park tonight. They've got the North Augusta High School versus Midland Valley High School baseball games. We have JV and varsity tonight. The last bullet point here, I'll just go ahead and address. It's the 25th anniversary celebration of the North Augusta High School baseball team winning the South Carolina State Championship, 4A. And so they're going to recognize the team in between the 2 games. We do have a city employee, Ryan Metz, who was on that team. He is a superintendent in utilities. And it's my understanding that Mr. Zier also has someone on that team, was Patrick on that team as well. So it's a nice way to honor them. And this is a city event where one of the events that the city sponsors for our guests, and our special guests have all been the players who are on the team who are available to attend tonight. So we're happy about that. To go back to the top of the list there, youth athletics season will resume this week after the break while everyone was on spring break. Next Monday, the Optimist Club and the city will host Youth Appreciation Day. So we've got a select group of North Augusta High School students participating. They'll meet with staff in the morning to learn about city government, and then they'll be here in the evening for city council meetings. And we've not done this event for a couple of years because of COVID, so we're excited to have all them back. The tourism team continues to work on developing a logo and website for the tourism website. We have 3 finalists for potential logos that we wanted to share with you. We'll be making the decision on the logo by the end of the week so that we can continue to move forward. We are on track with the website, getting it launched in June. And so I just wanted to share these logos with you. If you've got any, quick feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear it. I can also email these to you as well. So you can take a look, and if you just want to provide comments in the next couple days, I'm carrying my sheets around and getting everybody's opinion. So, yeah. Do I know? That's an option. All right. Well, we'll also.
I'll just go ahead and say what we
Okay,
said
go.
earlier, but I think Bob and I were in agreement that we like the third logo or the third font, but with the logo number 2 picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm with you.
It's on the record. All right. Well, I'll email those so you all can take a look at them and consider them. The tourism staff also continues to develop the rocking and rafting event that will be held June 4th. We anticipate opening up for registration later this week. So this is anyone who wants to participate on the water in a canoe, a kayak, or build your own raft. The entries will start later this week, so be on the lookout for that. That's all we have.
Thank you, Rachel. Next, we'll have Tom Zeser for Public Works and Engineering.
I just want to first give a big shout out to Jansen Construction, owner James J. Armstrong and crew for removing our flag last week under less than ideal conditions. So thankful to that group for handling that for us. Other than that, I just want to report that city streets and drains crews are in the process of doing our biannual alley maintenance. So residents and businesses that adjacent to the city alleyways will see and hear that activity. That basically consists of just clearing vegetation overgrowth and identifying any other maintenance needs such as potholes and things of that nature that need to be repaired. That should be completed this week, though. Thank you, Tom.
Tom, one quick thing. As I'm riding all over this city, Buena Vista and East Avenue, there is a big rectangular hole. And of course, that rain last week didn't help it. But I didn't know if you were aware of that or, it looks like it's been cut out. But it's at Buena Vista, and you make your,
It's at the end of East, right at Buena Vista, but I've seen some workers out in that area over the last couple of weeks, so I don't
well,
know.
this was one day last week that it was like a big hole. But it was perfectly rectangular.
Well, there's
So
one
that-
on Jackson and Lake, too.
Huh?
There's one on Jackson Lake on the corner, too.
Yeah, but this is a big thing, so I don't know if you want to just look
Okay, I'll
into
look
that,
into
be
that and
sure.
make sure it's being
But
addressed.
Buena Vista, I say Buena, it's Old North Augustans, and East Avenue right there.
Got it. Thank you.
Last but not least, we got J.D. McCauley from HR.
Hey everyone, just a reminder, we post our jobs every Friday, northguest.net/jobs. This is more for folks that are watching digitally than folks in the room because you guys know all about this. But we've had a really good response rate. 4 of the jobs that are listed are in process of being hired, so we're having a really good response from applicants. And our hiring managers are doing a great job in a very difficult market, as you guys can imagine. So that's all I have to report. If there's no questions, thank you.
Thank you, J.D.
If I can, I'll go ahead and move us into the third item here on the study session, which is under Mayor's Matters, and we'll do our focus item tonight on the Public Safety Headquarters. So for tonight's topic, it was my intention to present the updated Public Safety Headquarters elevation and site plan for council review with the intention of proposing a resolution in next week's city council meeting to allow the city to move forward on the bidding process for the facility. At a previous session with this council, I was directed to bring an updated design and site plan after we had conducted a public input session and incorporate as many changes and updates as feasible without adding significant cost to the project. During our citizen input session, we received the most feedback about the site plan and limited feedback on the look of the building. Additionally, since our last update on this topic, the city crews have cleared a majority of the site, demolished the old single-story motel, as well as removing most of the pavement associated with the motel. And so now I'll move into the presentation slide. So for this first slide, we have a copy of the updated elevation. The number one piece of feedback was that the previous drawings looked incomplete on the left side of the building, so the building looked unbalanced. I believe the architects have addressed that issue with the addition of a roofing element, as well as architectural rail and columns, and the rest of the building is largely unchanged. So under the previous drawing, you didn't have that left-hand side rail that's below the windows, and also missed a roof cap, which is now going across the entire length of the building, along with the columns that you see there on the left-hand side. So I'll pause for any comments, but this is what we believe is the product we ought to move forward with going into schematic designs and DDs. Yes, sir.
I have a question. If you look under court at the doors, are those 4 small doors instead of a 2 wide?
So I believe, based on the feedback that we had received, and I believe you were our feedback person on the doors, our intention right now for the court is to have the sliding doors, but for the police entrance to have standard doors for security reasons.
What's the width of the sliding door? That's my question.
That I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, Councilman.
They are not like the doors on Ground Plaza. You cannot. You
Well,
cannot
we hope
get,
they're wider.
You cannot get luggage in there.
I haven't walked through those, but I think, and of course, it's only on this rendering, and we've got time to pivot. But I think the plan on the police side was just to have 2 standard storefront, and here we were just thinking about the number of people coming into court. Is why we were doing those sliders. So
But the sliders are fine, but they just need to be wider.
right, I think the plan, Mr. Brooks, is to have the same width that you'd have if you had 2 3-0 leaves opening up. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the elevation?
I was just going to ask a little bit kind of on the why, but is there any time period representation on the columns or any historical thought process that went into it? I know we've had a lot of discussion, and I know the answer is probably yes, but if we could kind of just talk about that for a minute.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. So when we went through this process and when we presented the building design that was supposed to be slated for East Buena Vista, am I saying that right, Councilwoman Carpenter? All right. Yeah, that building did not fit the architectural style of the neighborhood, and we looked at fundamentally 2 different options. One was a Tudor option for the building, and then also what you see before you, which is really incorporating Georgian columns. And so based on feedback that we got from a number of residents in the neighborhood, notably Mike Hitchler, who's in the audience tonight, the feedback from the residents and also from some of the Historic Society folks was that the Georgian columns would fit more in line with that neighborhood than the Tudor design. And so that's the feedback that we went with, and ultimately you have before you today. Any other questions on the slide? Okay, moving forward to the second slide, which is the site plan. So for the site as shown here, some of the major changes included the addition of a right-in, right-out on Georgia Avenue. So the previous site plan that you had viewed only had entrances on both Observatory and Butler. So now you've got a right-in, right-out on the front. It also shows a connection now between the 2 secure parking lots. So the building now is a little further back from the property line where the Star Veg Field is at. So ultimately, that's moved forward. So you've got that driveway, which was really at the request of public safety as well, to have better connectivity there. And then also provides an overlook, which you can see there with the sidewalk in between the trees for a potential future memorial, and while still maintaining the 2 legacy buildings on Observatory Avenue, and also leaving room for future expansion as shown there in the dotted lines on the slide itself. Because ultimately, the council's guidance to me and the staff really came down to make sure that you have expansion capability on the site, and also maintain the buildings that are currently on the site that are on Observatory. And this site plan does both of those things.
So the terrace overlook was part of the idea. I think Dave Leverett was one of the folks who talked about I know the corner didn't make sense. So this is going to allow folks to be able to have a area that you can be outside and be around the trees and all that, right?
It does, Mr. Mayor, and as we refine, again, this is a first draft product, so as this gets refined, you'll probably see things and elements like park benches and those kinds of things that allow us to have a gathering place on that site.
Now, was that for the citizens to come and just sit around, or the park benches?
That would be for anybody that would want to enjoy the overlook or to potentially look at the memorial, which will eventually be on that site.
That's good. That's buying into the citizens of North Augusta, providing something for them as well. That's great. Great idea.
I think also what you'll see on the site plan, Councilman, is the incorporation of is not all, but as many trees, of the existing trees that can be saved and kept there on the site.
And where would the citizens park if, let's say, I wanted to take my grandchildren?
Councilwoman, you would park on the right-hand side of that building?
Here,
Yes, ma'am.
and then just
64.
walk around?
Yes, so you can see there's sidewalk connectivity from the
Yeah.
parking lot down to that observation area.
Well, now, just for, and Chief, you might need to answer that, though. And maybe I'm not, but is that sort of odd that people would come to where the court and police and to just sit down and relax? I mean, I know it's for the citizens, and,
I don't,
but,
I don't think it would be odd,
you know,
Ms. Carpenter, because at some point, there'll be a memorial there, obviously to honor the fallen officers, and
yeah.
so it would be an attractive place for people to come and visit.
I mean, you know, with the parking, just,
I would imagine field trips coming and kids being in the area to tour the building. This would provide a space for them maybe to have like a picnic lunch or something like that.
And that's
too.
one of the things that came from the citizen input. I mean, we're listening to citizens. They're saying, hey, don't just put a police station up there. Give us something that we can tie in with history, the memorial chief. That's a great idea. I don't
Yeah,
think
no, that
even
is a great
came up,
idea.
so I like it.
I mean, it's great, but I just didn't know how much that would be used, really.
Well, depending on what Historic North Augusta and the Punch and Judy players come up with, and we have some meetings lined up with them here in the coming weeks, they may try to make use of one or both of the legacy facilities. And so I'm not opposed personally of allowing citizen parking where at on the court side of the building. So I think you've got ample parking to be able to meet the requirements for the functionality of the building, and then for visitors as well as required.
What about Mr. Mike up there? Everything cool with you, Mike? With Well, good. That's good news. Well, thank you, Ma. That's encouraging. Now, are we, Mike talking about the historic, are we putting something about the Seven Gable, some kind of, not plaque, but memorial type thing, that people would know this was the Seven Gable, part of the Hampton Hotel?
That's not reflected on this particular drawing, Councilwoman, although I think that can be added pretty easily as an architectural design. But this really is more for the council to say the fundamental aspects of the design itself are acceptable, and we're going to do refinements as we go. But in order for us to be able to and I'll talk about my next paragraph here. So we're still several months from going out for final bids, but we do intend to move forward for a pre-qualification round with interested general contractors. And so having the council approve the current elevation and site plan will allow us to move forward in that way, really for the intention of moving this project along. I know we've been talking about this for a real long time, and I believe the guidance from the council, at least to me, was to get this project moving. And so this is a necessary step in order for us to move the ball.
Question I had was, there wasn't a question, I think it was down on Butler, about the entrance lining up with the residence driveway or something like that?
That was an observatory, Councilman.
Okay.
And so I've actually walked that ground, and as it stands now, even where that's currently represented on the drawing, that doesn't appear to me to have headlights going into the residents that had the concerns.
Okay.
And then for transparency purposes, you know, if we're able to put this on the agenda for next week and the council then votes on it and approves this action, then I'll be back in front of the council one final time on this project later this year with the intention of approving the final contract that we have from our winning bid, if so to speak. So there'll be one more opportunity for the council after next week to have a final look at things and look at the numbers and be comfortable with that and be able to vote on that package.
Jim, we were talking about historical. I believe Aiken County sponsors a program where you buy the sign, and they have Alan Riddick is the chairman of that organization, and they do a write-up for you, and the sign is like it's, just so you know where one is, it's one at Calhoun Park. And there's one off US 1, some kind of marker where Fifth Street Bridge was. But anyway, Aiken County will do that for you if you get contact Alan Riddick and see what he has to say about it. I think we'd have to buy the sign.
Mark Costner is taking ample notes, and I suspect he's all over it already.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Clifford? Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make sure, again, as we move forward, that the council is at least comfortable for us to be able to put that resolution on the agenda for next week.
I think we're good.
All right, Mr. Mayor, subject to yours and any council members' questions, that's all we have from staff. I turn the meeting back to you.
Okay, I only got one thing to add, so before I do that, anything else for good of the order, anybody? Okay. Just want to remind everybody, we had the Cumbie Center at our public power hour last week, and if you see the Tilbo's in downtown, I believe they're still there for all month. This is April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the Cumbie Center does a wonderful job as advocates for victims of sexual assault, so that is what that is. I think it's a wonderful way to get the information out to folks. So anyway, that's all I've got for the good order. So thank you all for being here, and we stand adjourned.